Another elite linebacker could pick Auburn in the next few days.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me on this Cruton Thursday, as he does every single week, it is Brian Smith, Locked On recruiting expert, host of The Portal. That's Locked On's recruiting, NIL, transfer portal show. Auburn Fall Camp is here. We'll discuss some of that. And if you missed that, I put up a show yesterday reacting to the Wednesday happening. So go check that out if that's what you're looking for. Jace Matthews, the smoke is getting real for the Auburn Tigers. But Brian, let's start with Anthony Davis, the very gifted, talented linebacker from Grayson. He decides this weekend on the 2nd, and Auburn is in his Final Four. It's Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Michigan. Quite the interesting list there.
Yeah.
And Auburn's linebacker recruiting in this class has been a little odd. It's been a little strange with Jamichael Garrett and Shadarius Tootle being a part of it. You lose both of those guys for seemingly different reasons. And then you go out and get Goon to be a part of the class. It's just been interesting, kind of the movement at linebacker, and it's got a chance now to add another part of that story with Anthony Davis committing soon.
Yeah, with Goon, as I think he could play either inside spot. Doesn't matter who else you get. I would imagine that Auburn would be very happy with Anthony Davis or several others, but like Adams, he's a really smart football player. So you've got a great situation where he can, okay, this guy's only going to be able to play this spot. I can play the other. So they're good. But Anthony Davis can really run. He's a kid that's played against elite competition. He's at Grayson. I don't think that Auburn would be disappointed if that was the only guy they got, to be honest. But you already got Goon in the fit. So you're trending in the right direction. But you're right, though. 2 guys in, then 2 guys leave. You add one and you might add another. Now, it is an unusual trend on how they got to this point, but at the end of the day, it's who you signed. That's really all that matters.
Yeah, no doubt. And a lot of Auburn folks are still hopeful with the pursuit of Tootle. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't feel super confident with Ant Davis picking Auburn this weekend. What is your feel on this?
That one is one I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. That's my feel, because the school list, I mean, Michigan, like their defense and their NIL and all that, it's an easy big brand if you want to leave home. Bama kind of speaks for itself. Ole Miss is a wild card. Like, they've recruited Georgia far better under their staff now than at any point in my lifetime. So
sure,
they shouldn't be discounted, but I think they're the least likely. Auburn has had that kid on campus several times, though. If they don't get him, they don't get him, but it won't be for a lack of effort.
Yeah.
So they've done the right things, and they have strong ties to that specific school. So I would imagine that Auburn's in the final 2 or 3. I know there's 4 listed, but I really don't think he's going to Ole Miss.
We've talked about this some with wide receivers and defensive backs and offensive linemen, where these positions, it benefits you to have other solid dudes at the same position with you. I assume linebackers the same, and defenses are playing less linebackers than they ever have historically, but you still see 2 linebackers on the field a ton. Is that something that these guys care about? If you've got a really solid linebacker that you believe in already in your class, is that something that guys like Anthony Davis, like, do they even look at that?
Recruits usually want to play with other good guys overall, but yeah, like receiver, you don't want to be the only freaking receiver. You don't want to be the only freaking DB. Same thing, a linebacker. You want to play with somebody that's going to help you, because if the guy next to you sucks, like if you're, we're just going to get a transfer later on, that's not a very good selling point for a school. Having Adam already in the class is going to help with anybody else you try to pursue. So that's a bonus. And there's also just the chemistry and having somebody in your class to go to meetings with, you probably hang out with. All that stuff matters. It does make an impact.
Before we move on to Jace Matthews, and I mean, that seems to be really heating up, I think, in Auburn's favor, which is great. But Auburn lost out on Deron Parks this past weekend, a guy that you and I have talked about a ton. Picked the Seminoles. Ohio State kind of dipped out, and it felt like it was Auburn. And then it sounds like, both just from talking to folks and reading the tea leaves, that FSU came in and made him an offer he could not refuse in the final few days of his recruitment. What did Auburn miss out on with Deron Parks? And when you look at their current state of their class, like, how many more interior offensive linemen do you think a school like Auburn needs right now?
They could probably use one more. And I think that Parks should be considered a quote unquote swing player. He could play right tackle for you. I don't know if he can play left tackle long term. He's got to change his body, but he's got good feet.
Yeah.
That's the kind of player that the SEC is famous for. So it's a boomer bust. Sure. Physical talent is there, not a lock. But every team takes kids like Deron Parks because size matters, especially in Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
If you're playing LSU, Georgia, SEC schools like that, you're going to have to. They need one more, though. Do they take a JUCO kid? Do they just go portal? What do they want to do? I just want to reiterate something I've mentioned on this show a little bit, and I'm doing a bunch of research on this. But if you look at the teams that go to the playoff, the vast majority recruit from the high school ranks on the O-line especially. That is a long, long, long process, and chemistry and taking reps together matters. Auburn has completely changed their O-line room in 2 years, but to get to where they really need to be, they need to land some more of these kind of kids, get 4 guys out of the high school ranks every single year. Like the last 5 years, Georgia has signed 27 offensive linemen. That is insane. More than any other school in the FBS. Notre Dame's taken 23. But like the hit rate, like you've heard the blue chip ratio, hitting close to 50%, like 4-star and stuff, that stuff matters too. Auburn's on that cusp. Adding one more guy like this would be good, especially if they could get somebody on the opposite of Zaire, who I think is going to be a multi-year starter for the Tigers. Is the difference between being in the 7-5, 8-14 to being like 93, 10-2. You get 2 elite offensive tackles, life is a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of them is just so raw, like Nikau Heppy.
Yeah, he's a big
New
dude.
Zealand guy. Like, he's just such a lottery pick. Where, like, I think he has a high upside, but it's going to be 3 years, it feels like, till we see this kid.
Yeah, how do you grade a kid like that, considering where he's played? He doesn't know what it looks like to be in front of a 3-tech that's 6'3.5", 285, and athletic and twitchy. He doesn't know what that looks like. So
yeah, I mean, they got him listed at 6'7", 370, and like he moves pretty well. Like, I think he's a rugby guy. And so it's like, that's
oh my
nice.
gosh.
I get why they want him, but it takes time to become an offensive line. It's such a technical position. So much more goes into it than I think people realize. And so it's like, what do you do with that? Like, are you banking on him as one of the guys? I don't know. It's an interesting offensive line class. I'm with you. Zaire, I think, is really good. And then look, I think Parker Pritchett is underrated. I think he's going to be a really solid player down the road at guard. So we'll see. We'll see exactly how this O-line class shapes up. But I think Deron Parks is a good player. We'll see if Auburn keeps pushing for him as we get closer to signing day or not. We'll see. We'll see. Jace Matthews, one of the most dynamic wide receivers in this class. Auburn's really in on it for him. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Drip Drop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, Brian, we've talked about this before, being hydrated, it's crucial. It's crucial. You're hydrating right now. And so when you're on top of your hydration, you notice everything just works better. Energy, mood, focus, even things like your skin. But getting enough fluids every day, it's not always easy. That's why you've got to try Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of any of the leading sports drinks. So right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat gets hard. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Jace Matthews, the 4-star receiver from Mississippi. There's speculation he might get a 5th star at some point when they re-roll the rankings. He's very good. You were the first national recruiting guy that I've heard say like, hey, he's one of the best guys in this class. And now everybody's kind of caught up to you on that. Brian, I'm hearing more and more good things about Auburn's shot with Jace Matthews.
I've heard the same. There's a lot of buzz behind it. I know Tom Moy 24/7 really likes where Auburn's sitting with him. And my guess is Tom has some pretty good insights on that.
Yeah,
and
he's not just pulling that out of nowhere for sure.
Yeah, so that's a good sign. He's been to campus multiple times. I've seen him on campus. I would assume that Ole Miss or LSU, just off the top of my head, would be the most likely other teams long-term. I don't even know his full list right now. I expect him to pick Auburn based on everything, and that's coming up pretty soon. But this, just to reiterate, not that it's going to surprise anybody, this will be a very long recruitment because I'm telling you, after everybody sees what some of us have already seen in the recruiting industry, watch some of his fall season. He plays at Greene County, which is just a random high school in Mississippi. He's going to have even more people. Like if Texas went after him this year or something and say, oh, we should have went after him, don't be surprised. Auburn may get the highest upside player of the entire class with this kid, like freakishly athletic.
Yeah.
He's just got great hand-eye coordination. So I think he could play early, even though Auburn's wide receiver room is gross. Like he'll play as a freshman somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's too dynamic not to, especially like if you lose Singleton, could he do some of the stuff that you're asking Singleton to do? Or if they, assuming everything clears up with Malcolm and they move Malcolm over there and, they give him that kind of role. Like I think there's options there for him to play early. I 100% agree with that. We talked about this a little bit with the linebacker recruiting, but Auburn was sitting really pretty at wide receiver at one point for several months with Devin Carter and Denarius Gray. Both those guys have flipped to other programs now, and they don't have a receiver committed, correct? That feels weird to say. I'm confirming. Yes, that is true. That is true, unless you count Kentrell White as a receiver, which he may play receiver at the next level. We'll see. Seems like they're recruiting to play tight end. But, I mean, Auburn, we were talking about it when Auburn was in it for C.D. Morgan, where if they would have had Devin Carter and Denarius Gray, then if they could have gotten C.D. Morgan, because at the time they led for him, like
top five
we had conversations like, oh, Auburn's about to have one of the best classes at receiver again. And now, like, they really need Jace Matthews.
That's recruiting in 2025, Zach. It's just, it happens to everybody. Like Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Notre Dame, everybody loses kids. So it is what it is. But adding Jace would certainly alleviate a lot of worries. Like I know I've said this on this program before, but if you're 15 years old and you're dunking a basketball, that's impressive. But if you're 15 years old and you're taking it through your legs in midair and dunking it, that is insanity. That's what Jace Matthews could do. And I got that from Deuce, so I'm going to take that as the gospel. They live pretty close to each other. And his highlight film is just insanity. So if you want some entertainment today, go look up Jace Matthews on Huddle. You will not be disappointed.
Dynamic, explosive, electric.
His hand-eye coordinate, like he catches the ball behind his head, one hand, like this stuff you don't expect high school kids to do.
Yeah.
So, and he's got a lot of upside because he's technically not where he needs to be yet to play. His jump is still going to be higher. Like, So,
I mean, with all the talk around Auburn's recruiting, and right now, 247 has Auburn ranked as the 70th ranked class right now. It's like they were moving up, and then it's like other people passed them. But if they were to get Jace Matthews, and then it seems like they're in a good spot with Braylon Womack, the 5-star safety. I mean, if you get those two guys over the next few weeks, like you feel better about a lot of stuff going on, regardless of what the class ranking is.
Well, those are two NFL players.
Right.
And those are two guys I expect to go in the first 3 rounds of the draft, both of them. So, the Ohio State-Auburn battle for a lot of guys here. I don't know what it is. We talked about this recently. They've had several. Another one for the safety, Womack. If they can win that, and then they get Matthews, who I think they're going to get, you'll have a top 50. Like those two guys will help you catapult a whole bunch of people. They'll be in the top 50 of the rankings. That would be better. But the bigger question is still what's going to happen on August 1st through about August 10th with all this clearinghouse junk. I expect Auburn to get 3 or 4 flips between now and signing day.
Yeah, I mean, especially if the product that they put on the field is good enough, for sure.
Well, if they and I'll be shocked if this happened, but they lay an egg, then all this is moot and there'll be all kinds of things, but I just don't think that's going to happen. They got enough experience, not enough talent. You even said it in the first press conference, like, we need a couple classes to get to where we need to be, where they're into that point now, basically.
Yeah.
This should be a pretty good team, and they'll play in a bowl game this year. I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is how do they look? They can't just win games, but they need to beat the bejesus out of some teams. Like if they went to Waco and won 27-10, it would do so much for their recruiting. It's not even fun. Like I'm not saying they're going to hold Baylor to 10, but like they got a good quarterback. But if they did, it would change the perception to get you over the top. So
I mean, I think even if you just win at Baylor, like I don't even think I really care what it looks like. I think if you win, it does so much because I think it just changes the narrative around your program moving forward.
Kids want to see you win games. There's no doubt. Dominating. I'm being greedy. I'm just looking at it from a coach's perspective.
Hey, I hope it pays off. I hope you're right. That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
But I don't, just for the record, I don't think Baylor can cover Auburn. I think that'll be the difference in the game. And I think it could be a track meet game. That could be 38-35. For those who don't know, Baylor's got a legit
If it's a track meet game, that's when I get a little concerned. I'm going to be honest with you. That's when I get a little concerned about the outcome. I think Auburn's defense needs to play.
Baylor's running back and receiver, they're number one at both spots, are NFL players. Their quarterback will play in the NFL. Like they're not shy of skill talent. I just don't know if on defense they can handle Auburn's offensive line and their receivers.
Brian, I've said this like 3 shows in a row. And FanDuel now has Auburn as an underdog. But I keep looking at the trenches and I can't talk myself into picking Baylor because of the trenches. I think Auburn's O-line is better than Baylor's D-line. I think Auburn's D-line is better than Baylor's O-line. Like I can't get past that.
If that game was on a neutral field, I think Auburn's favored by like 3-4 points. But Baylor's got a pretty decent stadium and their fans are crazy. It's game one, all that, but Auburn's used to that stuff. They play in the SEC. I don't think that's going to be a huge factor.
Yeah. Fall camp is here. It's upon us. What do we need to see over the next few weeks? That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. We do all these different shows and all these segments and all these topics about like, okay, who needs to win fall camp? What do we need to see? We do it for spring as well. And at some point, like, I think we really overcomplicate it because to me, like the answer is like Jackson Arnold has to get confident, comfortable, and ready to run this Hugh Freeze system as quickly as possible. Yes, he went through spring and all that. We didn't get to see him much because of the 8A stuff. But to me, it's about Jackson Arnold and using all of these pieces around him and Hugh Freeze putting him in a situation to do just that.
If they don't use him immediately in a sense of like being able to go up tempo when they won or whatever, I'll be disappointed. Maybe I'm greedy on that. I saw Jackson Arnold at Elite 11 finals. He won it that year. He's a great kid, by the way. I saw him in high school, went by his high school one year in Texas. That's the kind of kid you want leading your program. So I think they'll have a lot of confidence in him. And Ward only knows they got the receivers, the offensive line. They went and got the big tackle from Virginia Tech. There's no excuse. Auburn should score a lot of points. Just getting by shouldn't be the answer. Like I don't know what week 3, week 4, ESPN's College Game Day, when they talk about Auburn, if they're not saying, Auburn's offense is explosive, if that kind of conversation is not happening, something is wrong.
Well, I love that you say that, like week 3, week 4, like the 4th game of their schedule, they go to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and if it's not explosive,
College Game Day is going to eat that narrative and storyline up, as it should, especially if both teams are undefeated at that point. Jackson Arnold returning home, going back to Norman. What is that going to look like? They replaced them with John Mateer. I mean, there's so many different things they can do with that. He's got it. He has to perform at a level where they have to put up a graphic of what he did per game at Oklahoma last year and what he's done at Auburn so far in that young part of the season. And it's got to be drastic. It's got to be a drastic difference.
No offense to Oklahoma, and they had obviously every injury known to man last year at receiver. They had at 1.7 guys hurt, which is just
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. But still, he didn't look comfortable. Like he got thrown into the fire probably a little sooner than he needed to be. The difference between a sophomore and a junior in college, though, at quarterback is often pretty big. And this is an RPO-based offense. He ran that in high school. He ran that some at Oklahoma. I don't think he's going to have that much of a struggle. And at the end of the day, again, the offensive line's pretty good. He should be in a lot of favorable down and distances. And the receiver group is conservatively top 5 in college football. There's no excuses. There's no excuses.
No, there's not. And a lot of it's on Jackson, but almost all of it, to me, is still on Hugh Freeze. It's like you can't hide behind the roster anymore.
No.
Like, I think you did a great job of making some of these games you had no business being in close and competitive, but you also lost to teams that you should have won. I don't care what the roster looked like last year. So it's this weird dynamic of like, who are you as a coach now? We saw who you were at Ole Miss. We saw who you were at Liberty. Who are you now at Auburn? And can you be a better version of who you were at those other places? And this is the year. This is the year to do it. And this fall camp is crucial because of that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I haven't talked to you even off air about this very much. The running back room is wide open. We've heard a million different things. I don't normally pay any attention to running backs in fall camp, like hardly any. I'll actually watch it a little bit when we go out to see Auburn practice. I don't know if they're going to rotate a bunch of guys or they're going to have, okay, this is the guy we use when we go up tempo or what. That might be the wild card. Because
and some of it is, we got to go off of what Hugh Freeze tells us, and then some of it is like stuff that I'm hearing. What he said at media days is pretty consistent of, hey, we're comfortable doing a running back by committee going into the season, and if somebody emerges, we'll ride that, the hot hand, which makes sense. That's the right answer, I think. As far as what I'm hearing, we did a full segment on this a few days ago, Brian. Like, I've never seen this before at Auburn where like it's kind of not clear who this heir apparent is to Jarquez Hunter. We thought it was Damari Alston, but man, like I've talked to several folks in the know within the program, around the locker room, and everybody says something different. You'll get some people that say Darrell's the guy. You'll get some people that say Damari's the guy. You get some people that say that Jeremiah Cobb is the guy. Like, and they're all people that would know. I can't wait to see this battle. I think it's going to be crazy.
That might be, I don't know. When was the last time Auburn had a season where they rotated guys and guys literally would get hot, but then 2 weeks later, somebody that got 3 carries got 15? When's the last time Auburn had a season like that? Because that could be
happened before.
At other schools, like Auburn's had a lot of like dudes that, like obviously Bo and some other, but
they've had guys emerge late in the season, like Cam Petway. That year, like there were injuries that allowed Cam Petway to get more touches or whatever. I think he led the SEC in rushing that year, which is absurd.
17? Yeah. But every now and then that happens. That's random though. Yeah. He gets on the field because a guy gets banged up in front. He took his chance.
Yeah, he was an H-back and guys got banged up and they're like, all right, Cam, here you go. And then Cam Petway was a beast. And then he was wide open, running an open space against Vandy. And his hamstring blows up and it's like, all right, it was never really the same after that, which is awful. Totally a bummer, totally fluky. But yeah, so who is that going to be this year? They're all kind of different, which is good. I think if you're going to have a running back by committee, you want the guys to all have different strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, how they use that, how they decide that, and who gets the most touches, it's going to be so fun to see.
Yeah, I hope that Auburn figures that out pretty early. And maybe this is just me being greedy. Maybe
you've been greedy a lot today.
Well, it's just me. That's who I am. But I want to see up tempo with this wide receiver group, and that's why I want to be greedy. Like I've gotten to know Cam a little bit, and some of these guys just like seeing him at 7-on-7 events and stuff. So you have a personal interest, but I think that some of the stuff I've explained to you, and I saw him at Under Armour 7-on-7. You can't understand him until you see him up close and personal live. The more reps he gets, the more chances we have for highlight plays. I think, except for Jeremiah, he's the best talent in college football that's a big receiver. There's usually only one guy in college football. They got 2 in one class.
Yeah.
So Ohio State and Cam, they could be 1-2 in the draft kind of guy.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, and Ryan Williams all in the same draft recruiting class is crazy.
That's as good a 1, 2, 3 as we'll ever see in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I don't know of a better.
It's what else do you want? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to see him put guys on their heels because he can run by guys. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. and then they got to be sucking air because they're going hyperspeed. That cannot be fun. If you can execute, and if this gets back to Jackson, that will be really, and I'm sure they're not going to show us any of that junk in fall camp when we're allowed to be. I
no, nor should they. Yeah.
Right. And I get it. But if they're not doing that against Baylor at some point, that'll be a concern for me. They can't just be a huddle. Well, you've got too many athletes. You need to play track in pads in some situation. Now, you can be able to pull it back and run 4-minute offense, but that needs to be a part of who they are as an off. And again, what do you think they should average? I know it's a tough schedule. It's SEC. I think they should be 33, 34 points per game this year. If they're not, that would bother me. Again, you have NFL skill talent and a couple of offensive linemen, including your pivot guy, Connor Wu, I think will play a long time in the NFL. You should score a ton of points.
So get this. This was my stat of the day a few days ago.
All right.
In Auburn's 5 wins last season, they scored 46.8 points per game.
Holy cow.
And their losses, so I guess 7 losses, guess how many points they average per game?
20.
14.3.
That's one of the wildest swings I've ever heard for a P4 school. Like, FCS team or something, that's one thing.
And it was so hot and cold, it was crazy.
Psychologically, that team must have gotten their own head on offense a little bit.
I don't know. Can't do that, though.
30
you can't
points.
have 7 specific games, arguably your biggest 7 games on the schedule outside of the win against A&M, where you score an average of 14.3 points. That's crazy.
Well, I remember the A&M game. Weren't they up 21-0?
They were up by a lot. Yeah, that sounds right.
And it was like they scored on like 3 of their first 4 drives or something like that. And it was just big play, Cam on the post and all that.
Yeah.
That just shows you like,
oh, that's what this could have been. What this could look like. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know a lot rides on the pass and all that, but like they've got the linemen too to run the ball, even with the committee, to be a formidable force in that regard too.
Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Locked on the portal. Just got done finishing up a post that'll get today. LSU is my most recent overview of their recruiting class, what I think for their chances. Getting ready to do the Auburn one for later this week. So check out the Portal Podcast.
Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.